Despite the efforts of the samurai, Kaido's forces still greatly outnumber them. Betting everything on Otama's plan to even the odds, Nami unleashes a mighty thunderbolt on Oti. While the Straw Hats hold out against Kaido's strongest, Otama rushes to issue a command that will echo across all of Onigashima.
On the next One Piece, Nami's lethal attack, Otama's desperate challenge. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
A sudden wave of powerful reinforcements turns the tide of battle for the samurai and their allies. Following Otama's orders, the gifters leave Kaido's troops in disarray. But just as the samurai forces begin to rally, Queen enters a battle against Sanji, showing his strength as one of Kaido's lead performers.
On the next One Piece, a dramatic increase of allies. Straw Hats fight back. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
Digging up a long-standing grudge against Luffy and Shanks, Who's Who unleashes his resentment on Jinbe. But as he tells the tale from his time in jail, he unwittingly provokes Jinbe's fury. With his loyalty to Luffy and the pride of the Sun Pirates at stake, Jinbe gives his foe a true taste of fishman karate.
On the next One Piece, the pride of a helmsman, the enraged Jinbe. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
Cutting ties with Kaido once and for all, Yamato unleashes his true power on the roof of the palace. Back inside, Frankie wields the power of the Iron Pirate, facing off with Sasaki. But the fighter from the Tobiropo has more tricks up his sleeve than Frankie anticipated, and a straightforward brawl soon turns into a high-speed, high-flying sword fight.
On the next One Piece, showdown battles of the monsters, Yamato and Frankie. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
Robin finds herself wavering between a dream and reality, with familiar faces from her past returning. The kind people who Robin met in Ohara welcome her with a smile, alongside her mother, Olvia. Their whispers lead Robin down a trail of memories that challenge her spirit and the meaning of her journey.
On the next One Piece, the Predator's Trap, Black Maria's Temptation. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
The Rumbar pirates appear in the strange swirling mist as the cries of Brook's old friend Laboon echo through his mind. This is not a heartfelt reunion, but a cruel nightmare, as Brook's fallen crewmates turn their blades in upon him. Locked in a struggle born of his own heart, Brook must face his tragic past once again.
On the next One Piece, Slash the Nightmare, Brook draws his freezing sword. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
Black Maria begins a vicious assault on Robin, tearing her apart in both body and spirit. As flames rise all around her, Robin recalls a valuable lesson learned half a world away. In the midst of raging hellfire, a black flower blooms, giving birth to a devil yearning for vengeance.
On the next One Piece, Clutch, a demon incarnate, Robin. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
Raizo faces off against Fukurokuju, while Killer looks to take his revenge on Hawkins. However, a devious trick stops Kid's partner dead in his tracks. Meanwhile, in the performance hall, Luffy's allies wait for Dr. Miyagi's injection to take effect, and Sanji is forced to protect Zoro once again.
On the next One Piece, a spell, Kid and Zoro facing threats. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
The Battle of Onigashima keeps heating up, and we're about to enter the next phase. But before we do that, let's take a look at all the ass-kicking the Straw Hats have been doing. It's a full course of furious fights against the Tobiropo.
This episode is all meat and no fat, huh? Good, I'll bring the booze.
On the next One Piece, recapping fierce fights, Straw Hats versus Tobiropo. Luffy's gonna be king of the pirates!
The lead performers wreak havoc, bringing the Samurai Alliance to its knees. With two of Kaido's mightiest warriors at full strength, any hope for survival begins to dwindle. Sanji has weathered the storm, but the battle cannot be won without Zoro's power. When the swordsman comes roaring back to life, a path to victory is opened.
On the next One Piece, taking a chance, the two arms go into battle. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
Showing the spirit of a fierce samurai, Dogstorm battles Jack, vowing to defeat his sworn enemy once and for all. Nearby, Cat Viper unleashes his own assault, licking his lips at the chance to avenge the death of Pedro. And literally carrying the hopes of Wano on his back, a newly transformed Momonosuke delivers Luffy to the final battle.
On the next One Piece, Ascend to the Dawn, a pink dragon gets agitated. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
High above Wano, Yamato continues his struggle against Kaido, holding out for Luffy's return. However, his father's might is unrelenting, and Yamato soon finds himself backed into a corner. Remembering a bond he formed with three great samurai years ago, Yamato's strength is renewed as he cries out for freedom.
On the next One Piece, for the future, Yamato and the Great Swordsman's pledge. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
Momonosuke struggles to conquer his fears, trying again and again to take to the sky. Up above, Yamato stands up to his father's cruelty. United by the suffering Kaido has caused them, the man who calls himself Oden and the child who would be Shogun come together to change the fate of Wano.
On the next One Piece, Luffy soars, revenge against the king of the beasts. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
After conquering his own weakness, Momonosuke stands before the man who killed his mother and father. Now a dragon as tall and imposing as Kaido himself, he steels himself a battle beside Luffy. As the samurai and their allies hold their ground, Momonosuke buries his shame and bares his fangs for all of Wano.
On the next One Piece, two dragons face off. Momonosuke's determination. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
Filled with a newfound courage, Momonosuke stands beside Luffy in defiance of Kaido. However, Luffy vows to challenge the Emperor on his own, and tasks Momonosuke with an equally important mission. As Luffy and Kaido clash for the fate of the land of Wano, that battle causes nature itself to quake.
On the next One Piece, a legend all over again. Luffy's fist roars in the sky. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
A large stock of explosives is buried deep inside Kaido's castle, transforming Onigashima into a massive bomb looming over the flower capital. As battle rages within the flying fortress, it begins to crumble. Yamato and Momonosuke must stop its descent, but the task seems impossible.
On the next One Piece, the situation has grown tense. The end of Onigashima. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
Queen combines his prehistoric powers with a strange invention that quickly puts Sanji in a bind. Crushed beneath the might of the lead performer, Sanji still refuses to use his combat suit. On the brink of death, Sanji's body betrays his heart, and a forbidden door is opened, bringing forth a power that even he doesn't understand.
On the next One Piece, Sanji's mutation? The two arms in crisis. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
Killer continues his fight with Hawkins, but cannot bring himself to attack him for fear of damaging Kid. As Hawkins taunts Killer by harming his own body, Kid suffers the consequences in his battle with Big Mom. Desperate to find a weakness in Hawkins' power, Killer has no choice but to lay his captain's life on the line.
On the next One Piece, death to your partner, Killer's deadly gamble. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
Empowered by an old grudge, Orochi lurks through the halls of Onigashima plotting his revenge. He reaches out to Konjiro, who vows to carry out an encore presentation even as he stands at death's door. In the chaotic passageways of the castle, a burning vengeance takes root as the Kurosaki clan carries out their final performance.
On the next One Piece, a shadowy figure pulls the strings. Onigashima in flames. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
Kid returns to full strength, but even with Law's aid, Big Mom proves too fierce an adversary. Backed into a corner, the two captains from the worst generation are forced to use their last resort. And as they reveal their awakened devil fruit powers, their questionable teamwork is put to the test against this frightening opponent.
On the next One Piece, a countercharge. Law and Kid's return attack combination. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
Tormented and questioning his own humanity, Sanji nearly loses himself. As he faces the most difficult fight of his life, he may have to sacrifice his soul for the power he needs to win. United in purpose, Zoro and Sanji fight with unshakable conviction and make a grim promise before what may be their final battle.
On the next One Piece, for Luffy, Sanji and Zoro's oath, I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
A sea of flames spreads through the castle, plunging the ongoing battle into chaos. The undying resentment of the Kurozumi clan consumes everything in its path, threatening to turn all of Onigashima to ash before either side can triumph. As Orochi ushers it forward from the gates of hell, a familiar face greets him.
On the next One Piece, the onslaught of Kazanbo, Orochi's evil clutches close in. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
Zoro strikes at King with all of his strength, but falls short before the lead performer's unpredictable techniques. As he struggles to stay alive, the raging Enma suddenly sucks out his haki. Unable to advance and unable to retreat, Zoro searches desperately for weakness in the seemingly invincible opponent.
On the next One Piece, Zoro faces adversity. A monster, King the Wildfire. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
Zoro once again finds himself helpless before King's power with no solution in sight. As Enma continues to run wild, Zoro looks to the past and begins to piece together the history of his weapons. A sword, its creator, and all those who have wielded it challenge Zoro to find the true meaning of strength.
On the next One Piece, the secret of Enma, the cursed sword entrusted to Zoro. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
Queen shows his mastery over Germa's technology, taunting Sanji to relive bitter memories of his family. When Sanji is faced with the power he abandoned, he must find a new solution if he wants to prevail. As a blue flame ignites his soul, he gives Queen a full course of flying kicks.
On the next One Piece, the strike of an Ifrit, Sanji versus Queen. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
Sanji may have defeated Queen, but Zoro's still having the fight of his life against the lead performer King. We'll take a look at how this battle is shaping up before the big climax.
Don't screw it up, Mosshead. Luffy's counting on us to see this journey through to the end.
On the next One Piece, recapping fierce fights, Zoro versus a lead performer. Luffy is gonna be king of the pirates!
Zoro tames Enma, unleashing hellfire on King. He finally discovers a tiny weakness in his opponent, but the lead performer's offense is unrelenting. A dark past has bound King to Kaido, and just like Zoro, his loyalty will not waver until his captain sits upon the throne that rules the four seas.
On the next One Piece, the three-sword style of the Conqueror, Zoro versus King. I'm gonna be king of the